The big question, which should you buy, a Focus RS or an STi? I'm gonna tell you. Hello friends, it's a rainy day here in Arizona. Got my afternoon coffee going, switching up the scene a little bit because we're talking about something important. Focus RS versus Subaru WRX STi, the dream daily driver. Which one is for you? I want to help you solve that because at this very moment, I own both of them. So now I feel like I can speak on the subject. The main character of the story is you. You're trying to figure out, do I buy a Focus RS or an STi? Because you want the best sport compact that has all-wheel drive. And it's not super clear which one is ultimately better because everything has its pros and cons. And the worst thing that could happen to you is you end up with a car that you don't really love and you just spent a lot of money on it. Now that I own both, I'm here to help you decide which one is better for you specifically. And my biggest hope for you walking away from this video is going out and buying your dream all-wheel drive sport compact vehicle and having a blast with it. What comes to my mind is like, oh, the STi is sick, the wing is tight, they've been around forever, they sound so good, but the Focus RS is like so aesthetically pleasing all around and they're more reliable, they're a Ford, and they have a better interior. Let's go over the topics of discussion for today. Overall feel behind the wheel, modification process, interior, drivetrain, engine and transmission, reliability, handling, exterior, sound. Stock for stock, RS all day. If you're gonna keep a car stock and hang on to it stock forever and you want specifically behind the wheel feel, the better one, Focus RS all day. Modified versus modified. I haven't modified the Focus RS yet, but I'm pretty certain, and I can circle back with this after our series is over on the Focus RS. But if I had to bet money, I would say that STi is just so much more rowdy. It's much more mechanical. The engine sounds crazier. There's tons and tons of aftermarket support as there is for the Focus, but there's something to be said about an STi EJ that's completely unleashed. When you see those crazy high horsepower Focus RSs, like they resemble the stock car. A really done up STi does not resemble the stock car in my opinion. The Focus RS feels very immersive the way the interior is set up, and I really like that. The shape of the dash, the seating position, the more aggressive Recaros from factory, it really makes the STi feel like a basic economy car, honestly, the way it's shaped and feel, which it's not bad. It's just that the Focus RS is really aggressive with how immersive it is, and I love that about it. And anyone that gets in the car is like, dude, this thing is rad. They don't even understand why they like it. It's because it's so immersive. You just feel like you're in a sports car. That's unlike others from factory. Both of these cars have relatively similar modification processes, but the one thing that's very different is the EcoBoost platforms, the EcoBoost engines in the Ford platforms. The way they're set up, it makes it so much easier for tuning, and you can go to a reputable e-tuner and tune the thing with a callback to support over the internet with someone via email, and you don't really have to worry at all. The ECUs are very smart, and it's hard for the car to really damage itself. Unlike the Subaru, the ECU is not as smart. You got to really get it on a dyno in person with the fuel you have in your city and really dial it in pole by pole on a dyno to refine it and have more input from a tuner is what I've gathered from everything that I've learned. Similar bolt-ons. I would say the Focus RS is definitely easier to modify in general, but not necessarily work on because you can access everything from a Subaru on top, but they are very overwhelming because there's so much stuff on top of the engine. What they do have in common is not very strong engines. Because they have an open deck design, then you throw in the fact that the STIs have weak pistons up until 2019 and 2020. When you have an open deck block, you can only throw so much boost at it before bad things start to happen. In my STi, I had it closed decked so that the engine has more rigidity and you can put more boost pressure through it and it doesn't want to break. Making a ton of power for either of these cars is not necessarily in its favor, and if you want to, you better get ready to shell it out. Simply put, the Focus RS just has a luxury style feel of a regular basic production car. Feels like a Ford Focus, but just really nice, which is cool. STi has a pretty basic layout. STi does have some frills on the inside. If you get like a 2018 up STi, they are a little bit nicer. They use a lot more Alcantara suede type materials, and it feels special, but it doesn't feel as dramatic as the RS in my opinion. When it comes to what the car sounds like on the interior, the Focus RS has that Ford interior sound. It just feels stout. doesn't make too many noises, feels well insulated. And I love that about Ford vehicles, but the STi, it just feels like hollow, completely hollow, because it is. I'm honestly such a fanboy of Ford interiors. Obviously, both of these cars are all-wheel drive, but they have different all-wheel drive systems. The Subaru is called a symmetrical all-wheel drive system, and the RS has a GKN all-wheel drive system with a twin-stir twin-clutch system. That's the technical name for it that I found. Without going too deep, let me give you an overview of what the difference is, how the layout works, and we'll go way more in depth another day. But if you've ever heard of a Haldex, however you say it, Audi Volkswagen all-wheel drive system, that's what the RS is like. But let's talk about the STi first. The STi has a longitudinal oriented engine and transmission, so therefore you have the engine, and straight out the back of the crank it goes to the transmission, which has the transmission with the gears, and then a center differential and a drive shaft off the back of that to a rear differential. So it's engine, transmission, center diff, axles coming out the center diff, drive shaft down the middle to 2 axles out of the back of the rear diff, and they all work in unison together. The RS has a transverse engine and transmission orientation. So when you pop the hood, the engine is sideways like a normal 4-cylinder, and the transmission is bolted to the side of it. And then the car has a PTU, which is a power transfer unit, with a drive shaft attached to that to send it to the back, which has a RDU, rear drive unit, that has 2 clutches in it that are controlled electronically to decide how much torque it wants to send to each rear wheel. And it can control those rear wheels independently. The RS is basically a front-wheel drive car with that power transfer unit added to it. So you can run the car in front-wheel drive mode, just like an Audi Volkswagen. The Subaru, it's all just one big mechanical, connected, heavier all-wheel drive system, which is what makes it so great in many ways and reliable, and why Subaru has that set up in so many cars. For the purest all-wheel drive system, the Subaru is where it's at. For the more modern technology, the RS is where it's at. When it comes down to reliability, I'm gonna guess that you're gonna have less problems with the Subaru and it's gonna last you a lot longer, but it's heavier and it's only limited to what it can do. Without getting too technical, with the Focus RS setup and those clutch packs in the rear being controlled electronically, when it's in drift mode and such, it can send way more torque to the outside wheel to keep you sliding. It can send more torque to the inside wheel. It's all making millisecond calculations when you're driving the car on a track through the hills, daily driving it, to decide, hey, how do we get the power down efficiently and right now? And so you have that technology, you can feel that, and the car does handle really, really well in the corners. It's really, really fun to drive. It does have a lot less understeer compared to my STi, especially for the RS being in stock form. It is amazing what that all-wheel drive system can do. Now, when you think about the Focus RS as a rally car and you have clutch packs in the back that can get hot and such, that's when you want to lean more towards a symmetrical all-wheel drive system in the STi. That can be more beneficial in situations like that. But we'll dive way deeper another day, but now you have a basic understanding of the differences. Quick break, I want to give a little shout out to my own company, my team, editor Justin, we got Kaylin, we got Austin, we got Devin, even your boy Cam. We're working hard to build out the best sport compact Focus website, karmaspeed.com. So if you need parts for your sport compact, Focus ST, Focus RS, Fiesta ST, Subaru, or even backlogging all the vehicles we've done on this channel before, and hopefully can add some Volkswagen, Audi stuff soon, and hopefully if you watch this way down the line, there's a plethora of stuff. So go to karmaspeed.com, grab a jacket, a hat, t-shirt. We have the RS ST drop that we just did, oil change kits, Apple CarPlay for your Subaru. If you just went and checked out the site with the link in the description at any point today while you're watching the video on a different device, you pull it up, or after this video, that would mean the world to me. We're trying to grow. I've done my best to add as much value as I can to all the communities out there for the different platforms I've touched, and this is taking it a step further. And without you guys clicking on the website, seeing if you need anything, it won't be able to grow that part. And I want to be able to make the most unreal, information focused, product rich site to make your life as easy as possible, so it's easy for you to build confidence in the garage working on your cars, because that's what I'm passionate about, is helping you build confidence in the garage. And that's what the Karma Speed team and I is here to help you with, is building that confidence in the garage. Let's get back to the episode. I appreciate it, and I hope you check out Karma Speed. Let's start with the STi engine and transmission. In my opinion, it's the best sounding 4-cylinder ever made. It feels very, very smooth because it's a flat 4. When you have a motor that's rotating on a flat plane, it makes it so smooth, and I love that. If you know, you know. But it's also the most prone to failure because of the weak pistons, but if you build up the motor right and it's done and you run a safe amount of power, they can be extremely reliable. Hands down, the best part about the STi though is the transmission with the symmetrical all-wheel drive system that's been around forever. You have a center differential with clutches to decide how much power you want to the front or rear, or lock all 4 wheels, which is nice to be able to control, but simply put, nothing comes close to how connected you feel in an all-wheel drive car than something like an STi. Nothing comes close. It's so mechanical, so fun to drive. It's something I hope that everyone gets to experience or drive at least once, because I absolutely am obsessed with it, and that's why I have 2 STIs myself. The RS, it's a solid motor that makes good power. It's not great. The Focus ST comes with a 2-liter that has a closed deck head, so you can push more boost through it and have more power, but it's more reliable. That's the downside of the open deck with the 2.3 that's a little bit older design in the Focus RS. But if you push it, you'll just end up in a bad spot like you would with an STi in its stock form. But honestly, you don't need to make a ton of power to enjoy the Focus RS, and if you live in an area where there is snow, where there is, loose surface you're driving on, you're going to use the car for so much more than driving in a straight line or around corners at a track. It's just a very, very capable car with a good engine and transmission feel that feels great, and I love it. It's just well-rounded. I haven't owned it long enough to speak to it too much, but the STi is definitely superior when it comes to feel and feeling connected to the car because of the way it's set up. Stock for stock, 100%, the Focus RS 2.3-liter engine is going to outlive an STi engine as long as it has had the head gasket recall done if you have an earlier model. Like myself, I'm the 3rd owner of my Focus RS. The first owner had it done at 3,000 miles, and he got the car like when it was brand new, so it got done really quickly. I'd also say, modified for modified, that the Focus bolt-ons, specifically the Focus RS engine, is going to outlive an STi also. But like I said, long game of having fun, I prefer the feel and the driving experience of the STi. So reliability is not everything. Sometimes you're in it for the fun. Stock for stock, STi is way more comfortable. The RS, they went way too crazy on the dampening. Depending on the drive mode, it's stiff or super stiff or extremely stiff if you go into track mode, which is cool. But between that and how much pressure the tires call for from factory with the RS, it is an insanely stiff ride, and I don't really like it. It is cool when you want to drive aggressive. It's super stiff, ready to go. But as far as daily driving, the STi is way more comfortable. This should get fixed pretty quickly, as I'm going to put some BC coilovers on it. Yeah, we're going to lose the optional dampening, but if you felt how stiff it was, you probably wouldn't care either on losing out with that. Apparently in the 2018 models, they fixed this. Not sure. Can I get someone to confirm in the comments? Does your 2018 RS not suck when it comes to being way too stiff? In the canyons and corners, Focus RS all day. The all-wheel drive system shreds, and it has no understeer, and you can pull out of corners really well. You can pull through corners really well, and you can dive in pretty hot. With the STi, if you dive in too hot, you will just get a bunch of understeer, and the car will just start to shovel forward. So that's when I think the Focus RS is definitely superior. Both are fun, grippy cars. Nothing insanely different, but they're slightly different enough to pick up on some different things when you drive them back to back like I have. Out of the box STi, with some modifications, you can make them feel similar on the road, so they're equally as comfortable. But the STi does have that going for it from factory, being more comfortable. Aesthetically pleasing of the whole car, front to back, side to side, the RS is a rare car in my opinion where every angle looks good. From the side, from the front, from the rear 45, from the front 45, from above. The RS is just an aesthetically pleasing car, and I really want to hang on to this car for the rest of my life if I can afford to when the series is over, because you fit in and you're still just a normal person on the road, but it's so aesthetically pleasing that people are just like, why do I like that car so much? And that thing is rad. And I'm like, it's an RS model. It's a little bit different and they're not too common. Overall feelings though, as a car guy, the STi has the wing going for it. The 2018 plus models of the STIs look great from the front in my opinion. The 2015 model I have, the front bumper is kind of meh, so I plan to upgrade that. But the RS in my opinion is just a better overall looking car. The STI is definitely more aggressive and car person-ish. The RS is cool. It has a unique sound. I believe it matches the car inside and out. It sounds and feels very much like a modern rally car. When you compare exhaust notes for like true rally cars, it lines up with it. So it gets you excited, passengers excited, but is it anything that will break your neck? I don't think so. I think it's just kind of like, hey, what is that? Yeah, I like it. It sounds cool, but it's not like STi speaks for itself with the EJ. It's a sickness, the rumble. Some of us can't live without it, and I don't really have words to describe, but the Subaru Rumble is something else. People really like it. High-pitched exhaust notes tend to irritate people quicker, so with the EJ and STi Rumble sound, it tends to, I feel like, get a lot of appreciation because it's not hard on the ears. When you put equal length headers on an STi and you have a bunch of horsepower, it sounds really, really crazy also. It's just a win-win all over the board for the STi when it comes to sound. The RS is just good all around, but there's a couple variations with the STi with different headers and such and different exhaust setups. You can really get a big range of sounds, and it has that going for it compared to the RS. Everything sounds pretty similar across the board. It's just how much quieter or louder do you want to make it. I almost didn't put this in the script, but it crossed my mind right now. The RS comes factory with an exhaust system and tuning that makes it have some pops and bangs a little bit, which is cool, especially for a stock car. The STi does not. It actually takes some work and things to make the STi do that, and it's not necessarily a motor that likes to do that, and tuning it to do that is a little bit difficult. Dumping a bunch of fuel, retarding ignition, etc. Not going to get into it, but as far as sound goes, if you like pops and bangs or pops and that kind of thing, the RS is definitely way more ideal. The big question, which should you buy? A Focus RS or an STi? Stock for stock, I'm going to tell you Focus RS all day long. I'm hoping that the upgrade to BC coilovers is going to fix the rough ride and you have some good fitment with stock wheels and tires. You don't have to go super low or anything, and that would be all you'd have to do, and it's an overall fun car. The exhaust pops, the exhaust has a valve, the car is fun to drive, feels nice, it has an immersive cockpit, it handles insane in the hills, you can hang with anyone, and you have drift mode. It's just a blast. Modified versus modified STi, zero question. If you're gonna sink money into a car, a lot of money into a car, an STi will give you more of a unique driving experience that will be far more memorable than the Focus RS. If you're out for a daily driver and you're trying to spend the least money possible but buy a car up front that brings a fun experience, like I said, Focus RS. If you want to bring something that brings a lot of memories, it's unique and has a lot of options across the board of how you can set it up, do this, that, and this, STi all day. If interior is important to you, the 2018 Plus STi has the most similar interior to the Focus RS, Apple CarPlay, Recaros, and the limited models, I believe, of the STi. So you can get a really similar car if you pay for the top of the line STi on the newer-ish models. My 2015, I have the top of the line model, the limited, and it doesn't really compare to the Focus RS, but when you get a little newer into the 2018 realm, I believe, that's when you can compare them. If you're worried about reliability, if you can afford a 2019 Plus STi that has the reinforced pistons that are a little bit stronger, they can handle more power and be a little bit more reliable, that would be the closest thing you can get to the Focus RS. Obviously, the Focus RS takes the cake when it comes to reliability, but if you're in that game and you still are like, I want an STi, but I feel like I should buy a Focus RS now because of what Cam's telling me. If you buy one of the newer STIs, people are making, I believe, 450, 500 horsepower on stock motor and not having a problem and it being reliable, and the engine's happy with tuning and everything else like that. So I don't think you should steer completely away from it, but if you can pony up for one of those newer STIs with the Type RA block, I believe, it's probably not going to be bad for you at all. But when it comes down to it, reliability, Focus RS, if that's the most important thing to you. I'm a sport compact geek, all-wheel drive fanboy, and hatchbacks were my first love getting into cars. With the STi being my ultimate dream car when I was a kid, and then being such a hatchback fanboy, I feel the need to keep both cars, honestly, if I can. Don't know if I can, but they make me very happy. But what you want to know, if I had to personally keep one forever, it would be the STi. Solely because it's more of a unique driving experience when modified, which is what I like to do. When I bought my STi, it was the only vehicle I had, but by the time it blew up and I had to rebuild the motor, I drove it about, I think, 30 or 40,000 miles, and then I started knocking, ringland failure, typical, and I had a second vehicle, a little old mini truck at the time. So I was able to drive that while I was getting fixed, and yeah, it was a bummer, but I still had a car to get from point A to point B. If you don't plan on having a second car, it's really gonna become stressful at some point. There will be a moment in time, most likely, where your STi will have problems, and you're more than likely gonna be left stranded if you don't have a second vehicle. The Focus RS, on the other hand, you can modify it, have fun, do everything super safe, and probably it be your only car, and you have a fun time with it. That's not the case for something like the STi, and it may not leave you stranded on the the side of the road, the STi that is, it may leave you stranded in your garage when you get to a point or you need this or that. So you know where my head's at. I tried to pull out all the information I have in my brain about the two cars to pass on to you, so that as you're going through each topic in this video, you can check, you know, okay, I'm on the STi on this, I'm on the RS on this, I'd rather do the STi here. And hopefully you can see, okay, out of 9 topics we covered, 6 of them are on the STi and 3 of them are the RS. So you should probably lean towards the STi. Or if you're in a financial situation, it's your only car and you don't plan on having space ever for another car, probably should get the Focus RS. So you can make decisions with information, with that type of mentality, and figuring out where the value is at for you. Not everyone wants to watch a video where you change oil on a car, but editor Justin and I had a lot of fun with the editing, with the filming, with the process. My OCD is super happy with this video right here. If you want to click it, I'm going to tell you right now, we make an oil change fun to watch. So I hope you go check it out.